This is called the Land of Toil. Once as a young boy, I went on a journey by train with my grandfather. As I looked out the window at the distant horizon, I asked if we had far to go. Yes, he answered, but not as far as a dream can take you. And then, to help pass the time, or so I thought, he told me of a dream he once had, of a fantastic place called the Land of Toil, which had the most unusual trees. Why was it called the Land of Toil? I asked. Listen, and you may find out, said he. Chapter 1. The Bamboo Grove. In my dream, my grandfather began, I found myself in a grove of bamboo trees, stretching as far as I could see. Did you know bamboo is one of the earth's fastest growing things, he asked, and yet it is strong. If an earthquake comes, you want to be in a bamboo grove, because its roots spread everywhere, so the ground cannot break open. Then my grandfather smiled as if remembering. Sometimes your father would hide in the bamboo grove near our village, but I know he was happy when I found him. Chapter 2. The Giant Tree. Then in the dream, my grandfather continued, I was standing on top of a great tree that rose high above the forest. It was taller than all the others and set off by itself, so I could see the entire landscape. I was reminded of how God looks out on his vast creation and watches over each of his children. Chapter 3. Rich Dirt. As I looked down far below, I saw a great field of rich black dirt, and a sower sowing seeds in the freshly plowed rows. We think nothing of dirt, but it is the source of all our food. We cannot see below the ground, but it is a magic place where miracles happen. Chapter 4. The Living Stream. Then on the breeze came a sound of rushing water. Searching for its source, I saw a group of people drinking from a crystal-clear stream. Water, like the soil, is a gift from God. Without it, there is no life. That is why so many cities were built along lakes and rivers. Even when no water can be seen, we are able to dig wells and bring it up from the deep. Chapter 5. The Golden Tree. Not far from the stream, I saw a crowd of people coming and going to a place where men in suits were busy counting and weighing something. Imagine a tree that grew apples of real gold. That is what I saw. How the people loved them. In our world, there are many businesses that grow gold, and here, too, people love it. If I found one of those apples, I said, I suppose I could get a good deal of money for it. Better to never find one than to sell it, my grandfather said. Chapter 6. The Tree of Glass. Next, I saw a gardener carefully trimming something I could not see. Have you ever seen a glass tree? I shook my head. It would be fantastic if you could. And that is what the gardener was pruning so carefully, because a glass tree is fragile and can easily break. Even our strong trees need care. We must care for them with a love like the glass tree trimmer had. Chapter 7. The Dancing Trees. Meanwhile, it had become quite dark. Suddenly the breeze grew into a strong wind that set me down in a clearing filled with people dancing joyously. Around them were trees that seemed to dance with them. Have you ever noticed that when the wind blows and the clouds roll in, sometimes it looks as if our trees are dancing? God made trees so that they do not easily fall. When storms come, they hold on tight with their deep roots, and they dance. Chapter 8. Barns Filled with Silver. I said the Land of Toil was a place of unusual trees, but it also had many structures as well. In my dream, I saw barns filled with silver, filled so full that a silver light seemed to pour out from them. Near by, I could see the beginnings of bigger barns that would hold even more. But outside them was a guard who was forced to stand watch day and night. Around the barns was a beautiful forest of green that no one could steal. Chapter 9. The Bog of Sorrow. Next, I arrived at a bog. Do you know what that is? A place with soft, muddy ground, I asked. Yes, there the ground was so soft you would sink into it like quicksand. The water gave off a foul smell, and despair hung over it like a dark mist and soon began to seep into my soul. But then I saw a man who went into the bog to help those who had become mired there. My heart was lightened as I saw him rescue person after person and set them on a firmer path. Chapter 10, The Crimson Mountain. Suddenly lightning filled the sky, and in the distance I saw a crimson mountain outlined against the blackness. From it came the sound of fighting and warfare, and cries of terrible suffering. I was reminded that though we must face the reality that the Crimson Mountain exists, we must always work for peace and goodwill among all people. Chapter 11, The Valley of Humility. As dawn was breaking, I came to the edge of a steep valley. At the bottom were people who had fallen in and had become trapped. Some just sat there resigned to their fate. Others tried to climb out on their own, but very few made it. But along places at the top, there were people reaching out to help those down below. Those who received help were able to climb out and continue their journey. But rather than going on, many of these people, remembering their own time in the valley, stayed to help others who were trapped. Chapter 12, The Desert Oasis. Next, I was taken high over a great desert, where I saw mile after mile of hot, barren sand. After what seemed a long time, I arrived at a pleasant oasis on the other side. It was a place of healing for those who had made the difficult crossing, with shade trees growing by cool water, where weary travelers could rest. Off in the distance I saw a man approaching slowly, with great difficulty. As he got nearer, I saw the reason why. Exhausted himself, he had still found the strength to carry someone who had faltered. Quickly the others went out to him and helped bring the man to shelter. Feeling exhaustion overtake me, I lay down beneath the trees and slept. Chapter 13, The Adoration Gardens. When I awoke, I was no longer at the oasis, but in a stately garden filled with such trees as you might find in a well-kept park, set out in orderly rows and columns, and surrounded by lush green grass. It was a special place, set apart for people to gather and offer praise. Praise for the trees around them, the grass beneath them, and the sky above them. Praise for all living things, and praise for each other. Most of all, they praised the Creator, thanking Him for His creation and for His loving care. And as they offered praise for all these things, no one needed to praise themselves. Chapter 14, Shadow Island. The Adoration Gardens were near the coastline. As I walked along the beach, I looked across the sea and saw a place unlike all the others. It was Shadow Island, a place where fear feeds on our dark thoughts, so that eventually we can no longer see the light. Bad things happen on Shadow Island, but we do not have to go there. Avoid this place, grandson, wherever you may find it. Is this place in our world too? I asked. Shadow Island can be found in every world where men are, my grandfather replied, but it is not a place for man. Chapter 15, The Tree of Learning. Turning away from the coast, my dream ended at the Tree of Learning. There I understood how much we can learn from a tree that starts out as a small acorn and soon grows leaves and branches that reach toward heaven, and finally provides a home for the small animals of the forest, a nesting place for the birds of the air, and a place for us to rest beneath. Yes, trees teach us so much, my grandfather said as he ended his tale. Do you know of anyone else who made it to the Land of Toil? I asked as our journey drew to a close. Your father, I believe, found it, though he never told me. Perhaps I will travel there one day, I said. You will be a happy boy if you do, my grandfather answered, and then taking my hand in his, we stepped down from the train.